The story I'm about to tell you is true. I am not going to embellish any part of it, but I think you need to understand why I'm telling the story that I'm telling. I have an opportunity and a blessing, I would call it, to mentor and coach appraisers across the nation. It has been the joy of my life the last several years. I have talked about how much I love to teach, and I love appraising as well, and to be able to mix the two has been just awesome. I do one-on-one consulting with appraisers over Skype, over telephone. I do some in-person one-on-one coaching. Most of the in-person coaching I do is over the Dream Team, with the Dream Team, I should say, the group of appraisers that I meet with in 4 different cities on a quarterly basis, or the opportunity to speak and be at conferences across the nation as well has been a great experience for me. One of the things that I find is very common among appraisers is that they are very hardworking. They are very dedicated to their job, and they are struggling time-wise. Let's not even talk about money today and financial struggles that I know a lot of you are living paycheck to paycheck. What I want to talk about today is what is possible. I want to make it very clear from the very beginning that I am not telling you this information to sell anything. I am not telling you this information to embellish or make myself look good, because what I'm about to tell you does not happen overnight. It is a process. It is a long experience to get from point A to point B, but it is possible. It took me a lot longer than it is taking many of my students because we've kind of perfected the process, if you will, along the way. But I want to send out a message to my fellow appraisers who are struggling, who are really having a difficult time making it through every day and making it through every week because they have so much going on, and let you know that it is not just possible but probable to have a completely different life, one that is free, one that goes back to the roots of why you became an appraiser in the beginning. This is why, folks, today, this episode is why I do what I do. Okay? Again, this is not to toot my own horn. This is not to say, hey, look at what Dustin's doing. This is not to embellish. I get a lot of kickback from appraisers across the country who think that I'm lying about my experiences. I can tell you folks, you're just going to have to take my word for it or not. I'd love to hear your sound off in the comments below. Please do. But the information that I give you today is accurate. It's true. And it's not just my story, but it's the story of many of my students. And you know what? You don't need to be a student of what I do to make this a reality in your life. I'm sure there are many appraisers who have this similar experience. Before we get too far into this today, I want to remind you that we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. That's O-R-E-P. You can find them at orep.org. OREP, folks, is or should be your next E&O appraisal, errors and omission insurance company. OREP.org, check them out. The benefits that they give you, you will be blown away by. Speaking of benefits, how would you like to stop doing all of the data entry that you're doing? Folks, DataMaster can help you to do that. Go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. That's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach, and you can get a 14-day free trial. And finally, we are sponsored by Alamode Software. Alamode is the software that I use, that my office uses. We've been using it for over 20 years. You need to check them out, and you can right now for free. For a little over 2 weeks, you can try them out, all their bells, all their whistles, all their tech support, everything that comes with Alamode. You simply need to go to alamode.com/free trial. That's alamode.com/free trial. I think I'm going to title this episode A Day in the Life of the Appraiser Coach. Maybe that's a little bit of a misnomer because I'm not talking so much about my coaching side. I want to talk to you about what is possible as a real estate appraiser. Again, I want to emphasize that the information that I'm going to give you today is true. I can verify it many different ways. My staff is a witness of this on a daily basis. And I also want to emphasize that I'm not saying that you should look at me and say that this is what you should pattern your life after. Certainly not. My road, my life, my experience is mine. That being said, I think there's some principles that I want to outline today that I think, golly, I hope they're helpful to you. And I'll tell you the purpose of what I'm doing here. The purpose of what I'm doing is to help appraisers. That's really why I got into the teaching side of things. That's really why I do what I do. Because I love nothing more than to have a struggling appraiser come to me and say, Dustin, I am working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and I am dying. I love being self-employed, but I am dying. Yeah, I'm making good money, but even then I'm kind of living paycheck to paycheck, and I feel like I'm not getting enough sleep. I feel like I'm not taking care of my health. I feel like my relationships are going down the tube. Folks, this is a weekly experience for me. For individuals reaching out to me in the email, I do not have enough time to coach everybody that I want to coach. It's one of the reasons I started doing the Dream Team, because I can meet with a group of people all together and we can talk about principles together rather than so many of them one-on-one. The fees for my services on the coaching side are steep. I know that. I understand that. I get that. But I have to protect my time as well. There's just not enough of me to go around to teach all of these principles to everybody out there. So I wanted to do an episode on what is possible. I wanted to do an episode on what is real. I wanted to do an episode today really getting at the heart of what I do as an appraiser coach, why I started this podcast, why I do my blog, why I even have my website out there. Now let's speak frankly, okay? Let me be completely transparent here, okay? I don't do what I do for free. I get accused of making money off the backs of appraisers. Okay, I mean, I guess I'll accept that criticism. I do a service. You wouldn't do appraisals for free. I don't do coaching for free. Now, a lot of the coaching I actually do for free. I can't tell you how often I talk to appraisers and help them via email and phone calls, and there's no charge there, just depending on the situation. But the real in-depth coaching, the real nuts and bolts, the meats and potatoes, I do charge for that. I freely admit that. That's very clear on my website. I don't hide any of my prices. You can find my prices right there on the website. Okay. That being said, I want to make sure you understand that this is not a sales pitch today. That is not my purpose today. I have had a strong feeling the last couple of weeks that I needed to do an episode on really getting to the root of the foundation of what I do as an appraiser coach and why I do what I do. And folks, let me tell you, besides the fact that I love to teach, okay, that's out there. I've told you that. The reason I do what I do is because I see these struggling appraisers having such a difficult, challenging time. And I know that things can be differently. I know that they can do things differently. And I know that their business can be successful and they can have more time at home, more time for themselves, and more time for their relationships if they will just put a couple of foundational principles into play. Now, we're going to talk kind of on a high level today, meaning we're probably not going to get into the meat and potatoes, the nuts and bolts. Is that a little bit of a teaser? Not really. Honestly, folks, I've got so much coaching going on right now, I don't know that I can handle anymore. This is not a pitch. I mean, again, it's going to sound I know how this sounds. I do. I mean, it sounds like an infomercial. I'm certainly not trying to sell my services today. What I'm trying to do, honestly and transparently, is give you an idea of what is possible as a self-employed business owner and specific to the appraisal industry, because I are one. Okay, I am an appraiser, and I'm telling you, my story, you know my story. I'm not going to reiterate it here other than to remind you that I was doing what every other appraiser was doing, and I was getting what every other appraiser was getting for many, many years, and that is I was living paycheck to paycheck, making gross under $100,000 a year, and I was working 60 to 70 hours per week. My weekends were shot. My evenings were shot. About the only day I had off was maybe a half a day on Saturday, and I always took a full day off on Sunday. Every other day and evenings were packed full of trying to make a living as an appraiser. I did things differently. It took me a while to get there. It was not a snap of the finger. It was not a complete turnaround, 180 degrees in just a few days. This took me years to perfect, and I'm still perfecting it. I'm still learning. I'm still falling. I'm still failing. I'm hopefully failing forward, but I'm still failing on a regular basis, okay? But one of the things I've been able to do is share some of my knowledge and some of my experience with other appraisers and watch what they can do as well. And one of really the first step is vision. A couple of years ago, as you know, we did the Go Create Some Value workshop. And the Go Create Some Value workshop, the purpose of that was to share everything that I possibly could in a 2-day time frame as to how I do what I do. Okay, that workshop is now available online. You can go to my website. You can use the code. I think the coupon code is podcast. Yeah, podcast to save $50 off of that. It's the Go Create Some Value workshop. That goes into 10 hours of detailed explanation as to what I do in my business that, frankly, a lot of it's different than probably what you're doing, and a lot of it's very different from what your peers are doing. I would encourage you to take that course. I think it gives a pretty good detailed outline, not a 5,000-foot level, but really in the trees explanation, step by step, as to what I do as an appraiser and why I've been able to have the success that I've been able to have. Again, this is not a program to sell my services. I throw that out there because I am not going to be able to scratch the surface today. And really, that's not my purpose. My purpose today is not to go into the detail as to how I do what I do. My purpose today is to paint a picture. My purpose today, if I have one goal in mind today, it is that you come away from this show understanding what a day in Dustin's life looks like, but more importantly, with the idea that something similar can happen in your life as well. Because, and I want to emphasize this again, this is not just my story. I have had an opportunity and a blessing of teaching appraisers, hundreds of appraisers across the nation over the last few years. And I've seen the majority of them start to implement these principles and completely transform their lives as a small business owner, and really folks get their life back. And that's what we're talking about today, okay? I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. Folks, about 2 years ago, I changed from my regular E&O company, it's one that you would recognize if I said the name, to OREP. Why? First of all, I got to know David and Isaac at OREP. I've had them both on this program. You know them as well. They are real people, and they are good people. That was probably the biggest reason I switched. But I was blown away with what happened when I did. Number one, I saved money. I saved money the first year. I saved money the second year. I'm hoping to save money next year, David and Isaac. Okay. But the benefits that come with OREP are different and better than any other E&O company out there. Check them out right now, folks. You can go to orep.org. That's OREP.org, and check out the benefits page and find out what you are missing if you are with any other E&O company. I've been with a la mode software for over 20 years. They have been in this industry for over 30 years, folks. That's 3 decades of experience in helping appraisers to be more effective, more efficient at what they do. That's what we're talking about today, folks. Being more effective, being more efficient, but not cutting quality. That's what a la mode is all about. Right now, you can try them for free. Free, folks, Free, for 15 days. All of their tech support. They'll help you set it up. You can check it out for 2 weeks plus a day. And you can find out why you're not using it now. And if you want to continue, you will want to continue with a la mode. And once you decide, it's $349 per year for the next decade, guaranteed, folks. Check them out right now, alamode.com/free trial, or you can call them and tell them that you heard it on the Appraiser Coach podcast and you want the free trial. Just call them at 800-ALA-MODE. Finally, we are sponsored by DataMaster. DataMaster used to be a small company, started out of Utah. Great people, and they have grown and grown and grown. Why? because Data Master works. Data Master saves appraisers 30 to 60 minutes per appraisal. They type 28,000 words per minute. Now, obviously, they're not doing that typing. That's just the import speed. But it would take your help. It would take your employees. It would take you 28,000 words per minute to do what Data Master does. Folks, you cannot not be using Data Master if they're in your area. Check them out right now. It's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. Once again, datamasterfreetrial.com/coach for your full free 14-day trial. And we are back, folks. Dustin Harris, your host here at the Appraiser Coach Podcast. Thanks for joining me. Have an interesting episode for you today, and it really gets to the root and the foundation of what I do and why I do what I do as the coach. I have found that I have been able to put together a pretty successful business, an appraisal business. And you know what? I didn't do it alone, and I didn't do it without some intense study of the successful people, both living and dead, throughout history, and trying to put together some principles that I wanted to start implementing into my business. It took me a lot of failure. It took me a lot of getting back up and dusting myself off after I had face planted. And I still continue to do that on a regular basis. Hopefully not as hard and hopefully not as long as it has been in the past. I'm learning from my mistakes, and you will as well. But today I want to talk to you about what my life looks like. Again, I want to emphasize, folks, I know what this sounds like. I get it, okay? Number one, Dustin's bragging about his life. Okay, maybe. It's not my purpose, but I know how it sounds. Number two, Dustin's trying to sell products, and so he's trying to paint this picture that will, cause people to jump on board and buy his workshop and join his mastermind team and his all-star team and, maybe do coaching one-on-one with him. Folks, again, I'm not saying I'm not doing that. Okay, that's what I do for a living. All right, I'm in the info marketing world. I get it. I'm not gonna sit here and say that there's no motivation to be profitable on the coaching side. But folks, I'm telling you, believe it or not, I'm here to tell you today and to paint the picture. Whether you ever buy a service from me or not, I don't care. I care about one thing today. And that is, I care about you and your life and your ability to be able to be successful. Now, when I'm talking success, you got to remember, folks, when you hear the word wealth come out of my mouth, or the word success come out of my mouth, or rich come out of my mouth, it is not typically what you're going to hear or what you're going to understand those words to mean. Okay? To me, my relationships are what make me wealthy. My time and my ability, my freedom to be able to do what I want to do makes me rich. And success to me is being able to be my own self, to be able to be my own individual. Okay? Now, is there a financial component in that? Of course there is. Would I be doing any of this if there wasn't a financial component? And I'm talking about appraisal. I might be coaching without a financial incentive because I just love teaching people. Would I go out and inspect homes and do write-ups? I don't think so. In fact, I know so. I mean, it's not a think thing. There's no way I would go out for free and do this day after day after day, and neither would you. So let's just be honest. We're here to make money. And why are we making money? We are making money because we want to be successful. We want to have more time at home. We want to be able to do the things that we love to do. We want to be able to expand on our relationships and our talents and our freedom and grow our businesses and provide jobs and opportunities to other people and to be a good citizen and all of this stuff, folks. It's all wrapped up into one, and it all comes down to what your life looks like. Let me speak bluntly. Let me be bold if I can. Folks, if your life looks now the way that mine did 7-8 years ago, when I was living paycheck to paycheck and I was working at least 60 hours. I always use the number 60 because that was minimum, folks. I was working at least 60 hours every single week, week after week after week. And I was making less than $100,000 gross. And I'm telling you, folks, it was a struggle. Now, some other individuals that are not in the appraisal industry might look at that and go, well, gee, $85,000 gross, that's pretty good. Until you take into account overhead and taxes and everything else, folks. And I was taking home 30 to 40. And, 60 plus hours of stressful work, liability that sits on your shoulders as an appraiser, regulations, rules, challenging AMCs. I'm telling you, folks, it was no life to be proud of. I am proud of my life today, and I'm very happy with my life today. That's why I teach it to others, and that's why it does my heart good when I see other individuals picking up these principles, applying them in their own way. It doesn't have to be my way, and finding success in doing so. So here's what a day in my life looks like. I need to set this up, though. I've talked to you here before. I don't know which episode to point you towards, so I apologize for that. I'm not sure which episode I talked about it on, but it's out there. So I'll just re-emphasize so you don't have to go back and search the archives. You need to understand that when I talk to you about the day in my life today, I'm talking about either my Tuesday, my Wednesday, or my Thursday. Okay? My week is very different than most appraisers' weeks. I take Friday off completely. I don't come into the office on Friday. I do not work Saturdays. I do not work Sundays. And Monday is a planning day for me. Okay, it's full of working on my business, not in my business. It's staff meetings. It's doing podcasts like this one. It happens to be Tuesday today. It's a Tuesday afternoon, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm recording this. But that's not typical. I'm typically doing these podcasts on a Monday. And the reason I share that with you is because I want to make sure that you understand that when I'm talking about a day in Dustin's life, I'm talking about my appraisal day. Okay, not my day off on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, not my planning day on Monday. I'm talking about what my day looks like on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Okay? Here's what my day looks like. And the reason, let me back up for just a second. I know I said this already, but I just want to emphasize it. The reason I said what my week looks like is the reason I'm able to do what I can do on on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is because of what I do on Monday. Okay? My Monday gets my week organized in such a way that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are possible. Okay? So I don't want you to look at this in a vacuum. I don't want you to look at your appraisal business and say, well, I want my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to look like Dustin's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and not plan a planning day, and not do staff meetings, and not do working. Folks, I spend at least an hour a week working on my business, not in my business. That's when I close myself off from my phone, internet, and the world, and lock myself in a room for an hour and simply ponder and think about and write down ideas about my business. Okay, that's another topic for another day. So what does a day look like in Dustin's life on Tuesday, for example? Okay, today's a great example. In fact, let me just give you today, if you will, if you're okay with that. Today's a perfect snapshot example. Now, not all of my days look the same. They don't, certainly. But they look pretty similar to today. I got out of bed this morning at about 6:30. I headed to the gym. I know you're looking at me on the YouTube camera and you're saying, sure you did, Dustin. Hey, I'm working on it, okay? My problem's not with fitness. It's with food. I've got a really bad relationship with food. Actually, it's a great relationship with food. I love food, and I partake of it often. So I went to the gym. I got back around 7:45 in the morning and took a shower. And about 8 o'clock, I started making breakfast for my children who were starting to get out of bed at 8 o'clock. I love my mornings because my kids are in bed. About at 8:30, we had breakfast done, cleaned up, and we had a little devotional in our home on a regular basis. We have a little religious devotional that kind of gets us started for the day. I know, crazy religious people. It's just helpful to me to get my mind right for the day. And so we did that. About 8:30 is when we started that. About 8:50 is when we ended, so about 20 minutes. It was at that point that I looked at my calendar for the day. That is the first time that I had looked at my calendar since since Monday, since yesterday. I kind of poked around about the calendar. I had an idea that today would be a busy day, but I didn't know for sure. Didn't know for sure where I was going to be headed. My Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are laid out geographically, so I go a certain area in each of those days. Today happens to be what we call the North Day, okay, when I do all of my appraisals in the North area, which includes my hometown and the town. When I say hometown, the town I live in and my office town, which are two different towns, but both of those are in my North Day. They're about 30 minutes apart from one another. So this morning about 8:50, I looked at my calendar and went, holy smokes, I've got 8 appointments today, 7 full appraisals and 1 final inspection. They were all outlined nicely for me on the calendar. On my calendar was details about each one of those appointments, what time I was to be there. By the way, I set things up in Windows. So I will tell an individual, my staff will tell an individual when they set up an appointment that Dustin will be there between 9 and 11, between 11 and 1, between 1 and 3, for example. And so I have a little bit of flexibility in there. But it's usually 2-hour increments so that they're not waiting around all day. We're also very kind to them when we can be. If they don't want to wait around for 2 hours, I will call them, 20, 30 minutes before I get there when I'm, starting my other appointment that might be in a neighboring subdivision, and let them know that, in about 30 minutes-ish, I should be there. I started out, all of my appointments, by the way, are outlined fairly geographically so that I don't backtrack a lot. There was a little bit of backtracking today just because of the way things had to be scheduled with some other schedules with the borrowers. I mean, when you're dealing with 8 appointments, it's not possible to do a perfect milk run, if you will. All of my comps had been picked. All of my mobile files, my total mobile files had been uploaded to my phone. I shouldn't say that. They had been uploaded to the cloud. As I was leaving home, I hit, upload and download and got all of those from the cloud as I'm walking out the door. So 7 reports are now downloading. The 8th, we don't obviously upload the final inspections. We just send pictures via email. And I started driving to my first appointment. I got to my first appointment. My appointments take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes on average, and then drive time in between. We basically schedule about an hour for each appointment. Just to leave some time for drive time. Today was a little bit unusual in the sense that I had 4 appointments that were all within a mile of each other. That's not typical. It just happened that way. It was a little bit of a fluke. So don't think that's a typical thing that happens every day, but it did today. And that's why at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm back at the office now doing a podcast interview, okay, instead of bumping up against 5 o'clock. As I was going around doing my thing, I am also reviewing reports that are coming to me via email. Again, more about that in the Go Create Some Value workshop. It talks about the details as to how I do that, why I do that, and that kind of a thing. But with each of these reports, those that needed comp photos, I took them, used the mobile app, the Total mobile app. In fact, I'll just show this. Well, I won't take the time to pull it up. I was going to show it on YouTube, but you should be aware if you're using Total and you're using the mobile app, they do map out your comps if you put them in previously. Yes, I do comps before I go out for the most part. Not always, but most of the time we do. Again, more about that in the workshop. I know you've got 1,000 questions that are coming up. Please understand that most of these are answered in the workshop, and I'm more than willing to answer your questions in the comments below. So if you have those, please sound off. Not a big deal at all. Again, I'm not trying to sell the workshop here. I'm just telling you that gives you more detail. I'm just trying to paint the picture of what my schedule looks like. So I go to an appointment. I usually do the outside in. I measure from the outside. I do the interior. Again, 30, 45 minutes on average, sometimes less. Vacant homes go very quickly. I had one vacant home today that probably took me 20, 25 minutes to do the whole thing. Why? Because I don't have to talk to anybody. I can go faster when I do that. In between appointments, I'm checking my email. I might even be updating Facebook a little bit throughout the day. Not a whole lot. I don't like to get distracted by social media, but I do run several online boards on Facebook. They're closed groups for the All-Star team and the Dream Team, and there's questions that come across on a regular basis that I feel obligated and desiring to answer. So I typically jump on there a couple times a day and see what's new and update status that way. Checking email, checking in with the office on a regular basis. I use Voxer, V-O-X-E-R. It's an app that allows me to communicate with the office, kind of like a walkie-talkie using our smartphones. And I'm touching bases with my office manager, with my write-up queen, I should call her, my write-up queen, my scheduler, back and forth. We're back and forth about different things. My scheduler at one point today said, got kind of a crazy one up in Island Park. They're only up there every 2 weeks. They'll be up there on a Monday. Any chance you want to go up there on a Monday? That's not usually a day you work, but could we make an exception for this guy? And I said, sure, make it in the afternoon so I still have time to work on my business in the morning, and I'll just won't schedule as many coach calls that afternoon. Those are the types of things that I'm dealing on a regular basis. I'm trying very hard to paint the picture so you know kind of what my life looks like. So at 9 o'clock, I'm leaving my house, and I'm just going from appointment to appointment. In between appointments, not while I'm driving, okay, but in between appointments, I am checking email, and I'm checking Voxer, and I'm checking Facebook a little bit, just to keep in touch with the world, with the office, with what's going on, and I'm reviewing quality control, reviewing reports. I'm auditing, checking things that are happening at the office. In other words, I'm very connected with my staff and what's going on there. Okay. About midday, I stopped to get gas. I got a hot beverage. It's cold here in Idaho, and that kept me going till later in the afternoon. I normally have lunch around 11 or 12. I probably could have scheduled a lunch with one of my friends today. I tried to. I have two different friends that on a regular basis we have lunch together. Reached out to both of them. Didn't hear back from one of them. The other one said he was tied up and couldn't do it today. So I decided to do lunch on my own. Just barely finished it before I started this podcast. So I got here about 3:30. Had a lunch in a sack in front of my computer, catching up on some emails, and then decided to do this podcast episode. I will leave here at about 5 o'clock today. I will drive home. It's about 30 minutes, and I typically arrive, and my wife can confirm this, I typically arrive anywhere between 5:30 and 6:30 every day. Most of the time, I would say 75% of the time, I arrive at home before 6. Now, here's the key. When I get home at 6, my work, for the most part, was in parentheses, for the most part is over. I don't come home and do appraisal work. Almost never. There's exceptions to that rule, but those exceptions, honestly, are a couple times a year. Yeah, I said a couple of times a year do I work in the evenings and on the weekends. 99% of the time, I am done at 6 o'clock. Now, I might do some coach things in the evening, writing a blog, catching up on some coach emails, that kind of thing. But as far as my appraisal business goes, I am done at 6 o'clock. I'm home with my family. I have dinner with my family. My wife and I have decided that dinner time is a sacred time, and we need to spend as much time with our kids as we can. My kids range from 18 years of age down to 9, and I try to spend as much time with them as humanly possible. Okay. About 8:30, I put the little kids in bed. My two older kids, they stay up till 11 or 12. But about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, typically that's my spouse and I's time. We might watch Netflix together or do other things, and it's the time that we have together. The kids understand that. We've spent from 6 o'clock. She spent all day with them. She homeschools. Yeah. We're that kind of family too, religious and homeschooling. She spent all day with them. I spend the evenings with them, doing what I can, running them to different events, dance or piano or guitar lessons or equestrian lessons, or, just spending time with them, playing Nerf wars, playing outside, working together, what have you. And then the next day I get up and I do it all over again. And I love what I do, folks. I love walking through people's homes. I love getting to know people in their homes, in their home environment. That's super fun to me. Write-ups, I don't enjoy so much, so I delegate as much of that as I possibly can. There are some write-up stuff that I have to do because there's certain clients that's what they require. Today was not one of them. And so I had an opportunity to just do inspections today. Yes, I get my own comp pictures. Yes, I do what I do with the inspections. Most of my clients require me to inspect, and some of them require me to do write-ups, FHAs, VAs, those kind of, and specific clients required as well. So I keep my toe in the water as far as that goes, but I have delegated as much as I possibly can. I am 100% USPAP compliant. I am 100% Idaho State and Wyoming and Utah State compliant. And I'm very, very happy with the way that I have organized my life. Now, is my life for everybody? Certainly not. I'm not going to sit here and say that you ought to have the life that looks just like mine. In fact, that's pretty impossible. Okay. But I am saying that there's some principles at work here. Okay. And those boil down to a couple of things. Number one, I utilize technology big time. Technology to me is a tool for me to do things better. Just a week or so ago, I recorded a podcast about how we can rely too much on technology and we can make some huge blunders when we do. Please be careful, but please be willing to use technology that will be helpful to you as an appraiser to be more successful. But my biggest success story is the way that I utilize employees, people, individuals. Surround myself with a great team of people who are as concerned about my success as I am, and we work together to create a great product, to not cut corners, to have high quality in what we do. By the way, there's not a report that goes out of my office that is not at least seen by 4 sets of eyes. Now, that's different than what I had recorded in the Go Create Some Value workshop. I used to say it never goes out the door with at least 2 sets of without at least 2 sets of eyes taking a look at it. That has now changed to 4 sets of eyes. There are 4 sets of people, including the individual. Sometimes this is myself, who does the actual write-up reconciliation adjustment side of things. And then there's always a quality control check. There's always a third-party quality control check, and there's always the individual who uploads, who also does a quick check of everything in that report to make sure that we are compliant, to make sure that we're doing what we do. Are we perfect? Certainly not. Every single appraisal that I send out the door, I guarantee has mistakes on it. Guarantee. I talked to Bob Keith here recently, who is a former Oregon board member, and I think he said something to the effect of, I'm going to paraphrase him here, but he said something to the effect of, you can find major, I think he used the words major mistakes on every appraisal. It's unfortunate, but it's true. We're doing the best we can, just like you are. But quality is a big, big deal to me, folks. I do not cut corners, but I do utilize the power of human resources, the law of delegation, and, of course, technology and my systems, folks. The procedures that we have in my office are very intricate. They're very detailed, and we are pretty black and white in the way that we follow them. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm a Nazi. That does not mean that this is a concentration camp. We have a great deal of fun here in the appraisal office. It's a fun place to work. My attrition is quite low. People love to work here long term, and it's a lot of fun. But we take our work very, very seriously. That being said, I also take my fun very, very seriously. It's pretty rare that I don't go to a matinee once a week. I love movies. I've told you that before. That's my big break. Some people play golf. Some people gamble. Some people pay for sex. I don't know. That's not me. I love to go to the movies. And so, it's pretty rare that at least once a week that I don't, get done early. In fact, I actually looked at it today. I got done, like I said, about 3:30. I checked the matinees, and there was nothing that was playing that I hadn't already seen that was playing this late that would allow me to still be home by 6 o'clock. And so I said, well, I'll go back to the office and catch up on a few things. But, tomorrow may be different. Tomorrow's a slower day from what I understand. I haven't looked at my calendar yet, but my office assistant mentioned to me when I walked through the door that she said, man, you've had a pretty busy day. And I said, yeah. She goes, it's kind of surprising to see you back so soon. And I said, well, it went pretty well. Had 4 in the same neighborhood, so that went well. Had 1 vacant, made it go pretty quick. She goes, well, you'll be able to make up for it tomorrow because it's a pretty slow day. I think she said we had 3 or 4 tomorrow. So maybe I'll go to a movie tomorrow. I don't know. The point is, folks, is I own my life, and I love my life. This is my life. And it can be, again, I don't want you to have my life, but I want you to be able to have a life, okay? So many appraisers reach out to me and they say, Dustin, I don't know what to do with myself. I am working myself to death. I've got high blood pressure. I've got high cholesterol. I don't have time for my relationships. My marriage is falling apart. I don't have time for vacations or even weekend fun. We've got to do something different. And folks, I'm here to tell you that you can. Again, I know I've emphasized it several times, but please believe me when I say, folks, the purpose of today's episode is just to paint the picture that it is possible to change enough things in your life to maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, you have much more freedom to be who you are. Some of that's financial, but a lot of that is relationships and time, freeing up some time to be able to be an individual again, to be able to remember why it is that you did what you did in the beginning. Why did you become a self-employed individual? My guess is that you're not getting the same benefits that you thought you would get when you first jumped into this. My encouragement is that you find a way to do that. It does not have to be my way. But folks, we've got to stop working ourselves to death. This should be a fun career. This should be a fun life. Don't wait until you're retired to say, okay, now I can relax and actually enjoy my life. You can do it right now. Love your life as much as I love mine. Thank you for joining me. Once again, that coupon code for the Go Create Some Value workshop is podcast, and that'll save you $50. Give me some feedback, folks. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm egotistical, if you think I'm prideful, I can take it. Let me know where you think I should have done things differently today on today's episode. My goal was pure. The delivery probably was flubbed. But I want to be able to share with you that a very healthy and happy life is possible as a real estate appraiser. We'll catch you next week.